I'm Dan Farber, Editor-in-Chief of CBSNews.com, and I'm joined by Sarah Dutton, who is the Director of Surveys for CBS News, and we're here to talk about our latest CBS News New York Times survey, this time about healthcare and the economy, as well as interesting about how the police are perceived by various constituents. But let's start with the healthcare issue, which is really rolling up here toward this August recess. It doesn't look like there'll be a vote, but there's certainly a lot of discussion about what it is the American people want. And this survey seems to say that people do want healthcare reform very badly. 68 and 66% favor a government health plan to compete with private health plans.
That's true. We've been asking about a government health plan to compete with private insurers since June, and we did find support for it a little bit higher in June, but still 2/3, as you mentioned, do support that now. I think in terms of health care reform, Americans expect that this is going to happen by the end of the year. It may not have happened by the congressional recess, but they do think it's going to happen by the end of the year. 59% told us that. But, I'm not sure they see this as affecting themselves. 59% also told us that the reform proposals that are in Congress right now would not help them. Only 31% said that those proposals would help them. So at this point, I don't think Americans see a direct benefit to them as a result of health care reform.
And yet they still want it. Is the big issue, and I see that 59% say that it's the cost of health care that they're concerned about.
Yeah, that's absolutely true, but I think there are concerns whether the government steps in and creates a program to cover everybody or whether it doesn't, the costs are going to go up. I think Americans expect costs when it comes to health care to rise, but we did find that 75% of Americans are concerned that if the government does not create some kind of a program, that their health care costs are going to go up.
And there's also a difference, I think, in nuance right now where when we surveyed them earlier, it was the numbers about guaranteed health care for people were different than the government requiring that people be insured.
That's absolutely true. We found just over half think that the government should guarantee health insurance for everybody, but I think that word require must have a more negative connotation to Americans. Support's a little lower for that.
In fact, it was in June of this year, 64% approved a guarantee, and now it's 55%. And on require, now that's gone up.
It's gone up to 53%. So just over half of Americans think that the government should require everybody.
It sounds like the government's getting better at communicating a little bit in terms of how people should think about this. And in terms of Mr. Obama's handling of health care, it looks like his approval rating is pretty good.
Yeah, so far he is doing pretty well. It's certainly not by any means his highest approval rating. He does much better on handling the economy, foreign policy, other issues than he does on health care. 46% approve of how he's doing on health care, 38% disapprove, and a significant percentage aren't sure yet.
Well, let's move on to the economy. Looks like most people think that the economy is getting better, or at least there's an improvement.
There's an improvement. I wouldn't say most people yet. Views of the economy are still pretty negative. More than 8 in 10 Americans think the economy is bad. But the percentage who say it's very bad has decreased since our last poll. It's gone down from 44% to 35% now, a drop of 9 points since earlier in July. And the percent who say the economy is getting better has risen from 21% to 32% now. These are small signs, and still the overwhelming majority of the public sees the economy is not doing well and getting worse. But, there's been some good news in the last week. The stock market's climbed above 9,000, and that could be making Americans a little more optimistic right now.
The housing starts are up, so there's a few green shoots, so to speak. One interesting part of the survey was, who do you blame for the current state of the economy?
That's right, and so far President Obama is blamed by very few Americans for the state of the current economy. 30% think that the Bush administration is responsible for the state of the economy. 29% call Wall Street and other financial institutions at fault. And only 4% say that President Obama is to blame for the state of the economy. So, this is not viewed as his economic problems right now anyway.
On the other hand, the stimulus package doesn't fare so well.
People have not yet seen results from the stimulus package, but they expect that they will. Only a quarter say that nationally the stimulus package has improved the economy, but that rises to 44% who expect that it will help the economy. So now they really haven't seen results yet, but they expect they will. 53% expect that the stimulus package will create jobs. Only 4% say it has so far. So I think expectations are still pretty positive and hopeful for seeing some results.
And 65% oppose a second stimulus.
Absolutely. I mean, that's a pretty clear-cut number. I expect they want to see some results from the first one before they go ahead and support a second.
Now, it looks like President Obama's approval rating is holding steady.
It is. 58% approve of the job he's doing now. That's relatively unchanged from what we found from our poll earlier in July. Down a little bit from earlier in his presidency, but still a majority approve.
Now, finally, did some survey questions on police and race and on the treatment of blacks and Hispanics by most police. There's kind of some pretty much expected kind of results that 38% said that it was worse than whites.
Yeah, this is a general question we asked. It was not specific to the situation with Professor Gates, but 38% of Americans said that blacks and Hispanics are treated worse than whites by most police, but more, 46% think that most police treat blacks and Hispanics the same as they treat whites.